right, back in the field with the track stars, Ryan Righteous, Sean Tanner, DJ Jeremiah. Was good.
All right, this segment is sponsored by Nectar Distribution. Make sure you go out and check out Nectar. This is your opportunity to get your music out to digital outlets where you keep 100% of your royalties, where you keep 100% of the rights. Make sure you check out Nectar Distro today. All right.
All right, so there was a interview that Drake did, I think with Yachty, where he hinted that he was considering retiring. And then I heard word that Kendrick and J. Cole and some other people were hinting at retiring as well. What do you think is causing these artists that have been like running the space for all these years to consider retirement right now? And what happens to hip hop when Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, all these big people who have carried it for the last 10 years, what happens when they go away? What's left?
I think what's probably making them get tired, I think it's like a lot of industry things that go on behind the scenes that we're probably not privy to. Mm-hmm. And I think they just get tired of going through the extra stuff. I think making music is the easy part. I think it's the extra stuff that you got to deal with that's probably making them feel like, hey, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And they made enough money to where they can have a pretty comfortable life. Mm-hmm. As far as where music is going, I think we've always kind of had like a changing of the guard. Like you had the era when there was the Jay-Z and the Nas and those guys. Before that, you had the Outkast, Tribe Called. It's always been different generations of music. Mm-hmm. So it's somebody somewhere that we haven't heard of yet that somebody's gonna catch an ear and they're gonna hear him like what's the one guy in California, La Russell and people like that who have generated a buzz, and if they get the right machine around them, they may blow up and become that next tier of artists. But I think it might just be just tired of going through everything that come along with it. Fame. Anybody who has fame, they always telling you it's not what you think it is. Yeah. Industry pressure. You're probably just tired of it.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. I think that, first of all, I'm scared for who might be the next. I'm very scared because I just don't like where music is right now. But I think also, like you said, the fame. And even I've actually, talked to, asked the question to Christian hip hop artists and, saying like, man, like your social media, like that is a job, isn't it? And they were like, yeah, like I got to go and set these posts up and I have to make sure it says this and says that. And yesterday I was sending out an Instagram post for, from Wanda's birthday. It took me like 20 minutes to do that thing. I'm like, okay, I got to find the right hashtags. I got to find the right photo, the filter on there, whatever. Like, I was like, this is a job. I don't want to do this all day. And I can tell, the artists that do this kind of stuff that are social media, content creators, they got to be on. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be on. I stopped doing social media. I looked at my Facebook and my Instagram. I did maybe 10 posts all last year. Jeez. Just 10 posts because I'm just kind of like I don't want I want Trackstarz to continue to grow, and I want people to use my content that I have with my family or my friends and use that on Trackstarz. But I'm not so in the point where I want like Ryan Righteous Instagram and Ryan Righteous Facebook page to be like people commenting and people saying stuff. I'm over it. Yeah.
So if you guys notice, and this is something we've been talking about internally, it's pretty clear that every 10 years, music changes. Not just music, culture, art, fashion, everything changes every 10 years or so, right? Mm-hmm. You go back to the 80s, music, fashion, movies had a certain feel and vibe. 70s, 60s, 90s, 2000s, they all had their own vibe, sound, greats. Drake has been the 2010s to 2020 was his heyday, right? Mm-hmm. Is he just conscious that there's going to be a time where, whether he likes it or not, the style is going to change away from him, and he's going to be the old guy. And maybe he's trying to get in front of that change. Maybe he noticed when he tried that dance record and it didn't work, and it's like, maybe I'm at the end of my run. You know what I mean?
I think I was looking at an interview that listening to it anyway that Under 3000 had, and he was talking about that same thing. And we think about 3 Stacks, we're like, man, he's one of the best lyricists ever. But he was kind of saying like he didn't want to be that guy that time had passed him by and he was still trying to hold on. Mm-hmm. He'd kind of rather walk away on top with people saying, man, he's one of the best, and let that be the lasting impression. Like when Michael Jordan came back and played for the Wizards, it was like, you should have
Brady came back for the Bucks.
You know what I'm saying? He won a Super Bowl at least, but with like Jordan, it's like you should have went out with the crossover on Byron Russell with the
Yeah.
It was a three-peat. That's it. You really have to come back and play in Washington. So he probably thinking, I'd rather go out with a certain status as opposed to just, looking bad.
Yeah, Tom Brady should have let his last game be that NFC Championship 2 years ago. Yeah. That would have been a good, okay, all right.
Yeah, but if you're great enough, nobody really cares how you peter out. Like, nobody really cares about the Wizards. They don't hold it against them.
No, they don't.
You know what I mean? So Drake and them are at a certain place where they've dominated their decade. Mm-hmm. They can last for, another couple years, especially if they figure out what the next trend is. They could last. And there's been artists that have lasted through the 90s and the 2000s, but they didn't carry their number one status into the next decade. They've always got surpassed by somebody else. So the question is, can you tell where it's going next? And who, if you just wipe Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, all of them off the board, which young artist is going to be that next great?
Question. I don't have the answer to that, but the question is this.
I'll take your question and completely change the subject.
Yeah. No, it's not a difference. When someone says they retire, are they retiring from just making albums, or will they still do features, or they're not doing features? Because it seems like everybody who retires is still doing features.
Yeah, or still doing albums like Jay-Z. But the time of Jay-Z being the number one artist in the country is done. Like, that's clear. When he comes out with a 444, he's not selling the most. He's not doing the most. But he still has the respect of the people who grew up with him, and enough respect with the younger audience to where he could still do that, even if it doesn't go number one, and still get respect. And there are a couple artists that have that luxury. I think Drake doesn't ever want to be less than number one. So I think that's what he's probably battling with. How do I want to slide into number 10 spot or slide into number 25 spot and chill for the rest of my career making albums every now and then? Like, I don't think he wants that. I think he wants to be number one because most of his lyrics are based on him being number one. What is he going to say when he ain't number one?
Yeah. It's true. I think as far as just the transition to hip-hop, I think, like I was saying, I think it's always artists who come up. Like, before Kendrick and J. Cole came up, we didn't know Kendrick and J. Cole were going to come up, So it's like we had other artists who were kind of running the space. We heard about them underground, but I don't think many people expected Kendrick to be what he is right now. When you heard Section 80, you didn't hear him being like a worldwide phenomenon like he is now.
But there used to be a pass off to the greats, right? Drake was on, Lil Wayne kind of co-signed Drake and passed the baton to him. Drake had Kendrick on one of his albums that got Kendrick some love, and he went on to carry it. J. Cole was Jay-Z's protege. He kind of got handed the baton and he went on with it. That's kind of what happened from person to person. It was like a pass off.
That's true.
Who is the next? Like, I don't see nobody getting groomed to be the next great.
Do you think the way music has changed, like, as far as the distribution of music and the sound of music, you think would that change in the way it has may have affected the way we even see who's next?
They can't control it as much anymore.
Because you got so many independent artists. You got the streaming aspect of coming in to play with albums really or not. Like, appreciated the way they used to be, where you might get a good album and listen to it for a year or two and it was dope. Now you probably got to drop an album, 2 albums a year, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
just about,
At least.
So it's just different.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Name an artist that you think it has a chance to take over.
Right now?
Anybody.
I mean, aren't y'all saying, hadn't everybody been saying this Lil Baby?
I think Lil Baby, like, if I got to be real, the run Lil Baby has been like the best run outside of those guys you mentioned. He's had the best run in hip hop probably the last 2-3 years for sure. You might not be a big fan of his music if that's not your cup of tea, but it's people who love it. And he's gotten on tracks with these artists that you've mentioned, like a J. Cole and artists like that, and he's held his own, so.
I just don't see the same level of love. Like, maybe I'm just not young enough to be all up in everybody's business where you got to see like somebody kind of rise in fame. But I'm just not seeing the same level of fame being passed on to the younger artists. They're doing okay. They're getting a lot of attention, but I don't see it translating into like just success, like crazy success. To me, the people who have had the most success are the hip hop adjacent people, like a Post Malone, like where they or The Weeknd, where they kind of came up with hip hop and then they went and did pop. They seem to be doing good, but I don't see anybody dominating.
Lil Baby dominating. I got to say, Baby dominating, man. I think Young Thug had a run. Of course now with everything he got going on, but I think he had a good run. really all these people really was spawned by Future. Future kind of got a whole generation of artists up under him that kind of took that auto-tune, singy kind of rap style.
Yeah.
That came from T-Pain, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of evolved from that.
That's cool when T-Pain did it.
Yeah.
Somebody said 21 Savage. I just don't think he's good.
But before you get discouraged, I think in hip hop has always been that way. You've had the quote unquote conscious rappers or the people who are known as lyricists, and then you had the club, shake music type stuff. You know, it's always been balanced. You know.
Here's a question for you: the pioneers of hip hop, if they were around to judge where hip hop has been over the last 50 years, where do you think they would have fallen off and been like, this ain't what we?
Probably around Lil Jon.
Oh no, you hit a sore spot.
I mean, just being real, like if you want to say hip hop, we talking about lyricism and stuff. Lil Jon was just yelling and
crunk music is where it
I think that's when
people were like, uh oh.
So
when the bottom fell out.
So when it dropped off, like we call it crunk music, then they had snap music.
Mm-hmm.
When it drops off, do they pick it back up at some point? Like I'm trying to figure out where taste is.
This is what happens. When music changes like that, where a Lil Jon starts doing well, the music style changes, and then the lyricists start dominating that sound too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Lil Wayne will jump on songs with people, Drake will jump on songs with people, Jay-Z would jump on songs, Andre would jump on songs. Then you're like, oh, this is what it could sound like if somebody good was on it. And then they start to dominate, the lyricists start to dominate. I'm not seeing the same thing happen. The only person that really seems to take the new sound and then put himself on it and then make it better is a Drake, where whatever sound comes, he just jumps on it and then he makes it sound better.
J. Cole, I think J. Cole will do a good job of that. I think he does.
J. Cole is a great. Kendrick adopted some of the elements of the new sound and he did well. I just don't see many more of those. It seems like lyrics, like people just don't care about that.
Yeah, music has changed, man. It's more about a vibe now and a feeling as it is, as opposed to, there's some lyrics still out there, but attention span, like think about where you used to be able to do something for an hour or 30 minutes. Now it's like you got 10 strong minutes. So you doing videos now. They got reels on social media.
Got 1 minute.
Yeah, you can't get on here and talk for 10 minutes no more. You got 60 seconds, and your first 10 better capture my attention off in the scroll. You know, it's just.
I love that.
So people are not thinking.
I love that.
I love the.
You do a 2-hour show every week.
I mean, yeah. Well.
But y'all guys are a staple, though. It's like, okay, people who look at what you guys do, they know, okay, man, this is the show I look at. I've been looking at it for X amount of years. Like, this is dope, you know, so they know what to expect. But if you're a new face, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got 5 or 10 seconds to capture my attention. And if you don't, hey, you done.
So we made it because we came out with social media, basically.
I think, man, y'all made it because y'all have always, like, even with this show now, the questions you're asking, the topics, you're always integrated into the culture. You know what I'm saying? You're asking questions, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're not afraid to state your points of views. I think that's important. You know, you give people a place where they can say, I feel this way or I feel that way. And when people feel like they can express themselves, they always want to be a part of that. You know,
so I'm going through the comments. I see somebody said Joseph King said a lot of my 8th graders are listening to 21 Savage, Lil Uzi Vert, and Glorilla. I've been hearing Glorilla's name a lot.
We got to stop that. We got to stop that. That is insane.
Who else? Somebody said Nick Grant. I don't know who that is.
Nick Grant is dope. I feel like Nick Grant had an opportunity to really do something. He's from North Carolina. He's dope lyrically, though. I think he had an opportunity to do something. He might have been signed with T.I. or somebody, I believe.
Here's the other thing. Somebody said it would have been Juice WRLD. There's a lot of artists that were on track, like XXX, Juice WRLD. They were on track to kind of take over, and they got killed. And
Nipsey.
That took a lot of people out that were in position to be those next guys.
That was that. I don't want to criticize, you know what I'm saying? I don't like talking, I ain't talking bad about them because they're dead or whatnot, but that music was depressing too. It was dark.
It was, but it was working.
It was working.
As far as where music was going in hip hop, they were the best at it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So if it was going to be passed, it would have been passed to guys like them,
yeah.
And they got taken off the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ever since those key individuals got taken off the board, what we have left hasn't been doing as well.
True.
And people who have popped, like a Cardi B, she ain't made music since.
It's confusing though, because I would argue to say hip hop is bigger than it's ever been.
In total,
hip hop, the genre of hip hop is probably at this point probably the biggest.
It's the dominant genre, but it's starting to slip. Can you feel it?
I know what I think. Now I'm thinking about it. It's probably not going to be an artist that's the artists like we used to that kind of just run the game. I think hip hop as a whole, as a unit, is probably what's going to be. It's going to be like a big thing that kind of pushes forward as opposed to like.
My thing is, if they're not at the top, if there's no clear leaders, it's going to be easy to pass.
I think
it always gets passed. Like I talked about, Data is Beautiful.
Yeah.
We watched how
Yeah.
it was country, then it was jazz, then it was soul, then it was this, and it was that.
Yeah.
Hip hop is like killing it right now, but it's sliding back to the pack.
I think the delivery of hip hop is probably gonna be what changes, right? Like we noticed, you know, I told you I was watching #1 show on Netflix the other day, and for like 2 minutes they were playing KB's "Hold Me Back." And so I'm like, I think that's one area where, you know, we're winning, is that the whole, you know, placements thing is good.
It gives us
clean music.
This is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, they probably, you know, thinking to themselves like, man, these aren't big artists where we have to like license it for, you know, X amount of dollars or for a certain number of time. Like, it's just like, you know, that situation. So I think that could be another thing as well. But for me, you say hip hop is starting to slip. I feel like hip hop has too many ties to slip. It's tied to fashion. It's tied to music.
Sports.
It's tied to cars. It's tied to sports. It's just too many places where it's tied to for it to really slip.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it. You in the field with the track stars, Ryan Righteous, Sean Tanner, DJ Jeremiah. Let's go.
Battle scar 'cause I had to